This is Mao Zedong, and now he's dead. With his passing, the Cultural Revolution comes to a screeching halt. Meet Deng Xiaoping. He's not the chairman, nor is he the premier, but he controls the military, making him the absolute heart of the ruling Octopus elite. And right now, the country needs him to step up. The economy is in absolute shambles, far-left ideology is running rampant, and hundreds of millions of octopuses are barely scraping by, struggling to survive. Looking at this mess, Deng is about to lose his mind. The year is 1978. Welcome to a dirt-poor collective farm. By law, the fruits of these farming octopuses' labor don't actually belong to them. As you can guess, nobody wants to work, and productivity is rock bottom. So they're constantly going hungry, and octopuses are regularly starving to death. Finally, they've had enough. That winter, 18 octopuses risk their lives to sign a secret pact. They decide to opt out of the collective farm and divide the land among their families. Once they pay their taxes, whatever is left over belongs entirely to them. Suddenly, they're highly motivated to find ways to boost crop yields. The catch? Under the law at the time, doing this would land them straight in prison. Deng Xiaoping catches wind that some octopuses are breaking the socialist rules, but then he notices something crazy. This little rebellion has unleashed mind-blowing productivity. Once those collective farms are broken up, grain yields skyrocket by 50%. So, instead of cracking down, Deng goes all in and rolls this method out nationwide. For the first time in a long time, the octopuses are finally eating their fill. By now, Deng has figured out that socialism, in its current state, is basically a scam, though he keeps that to himself. After all, if every single octopus is equally dirt poor, that's technically the ideal socialist utopia, which is completely absurd. So, he decides it's time to bring in capitalism. But obviously, a lot of octopuses haven't gotten the memo yet. They still think capitalism is inherently corrupt and evil. Deng is taking a ton of heat for this. To prove the power of the free market, he realizes he needs a guinea pig, a testing ground to show them how it's done. Down south, there's a tiny fishing village called Shenzhen. It sits right next to a capitalist paradise, Hong Kong. In fact, they're practically joined at the hip. They draw a line around Shenzhen, walling it off to create a special zone. Here, octopuses from all over the world are allowed to invest. Local octopuses can stream in to start businesses or get jobs. They even start publicly auctioning off land. All of this seems like a no-brainer today, but back then, it was a one-way ticket to prison or a forced labor camp. A few years go by and people look at the numbers. Shenzhen's GDP is skyrocketing at an average annual growth rate of 37.4%. That is absolutely insane. It means the economy is doubling in size in less than 3 years. Naturally, it doesn't take long before more cities get the green light to join the market economy. Thanks to the earlier farming reforms, the octopuses now have plenty of food, which means they don't need as many farmers anymore. So, some octopuses start banding together and set up their own companies. On paper, these businesses are joint ventures with the government, but behind closed doors, they're owned by a select few octopuses. Once again, Deng Xiaoping catches people playing the capitalism game, and once again, he turns a blind eye. Instead of putting a stop to it, he cooks up something called the dual-track price system. Get this, the exact same item could cost 10 times more in the free market than it did in the planned economy. Here's how it worked. Once a factory hit its government quota, any leftover goods could be sold freely. The quota stuff belonged to the state and had to be sold to the government at a dirt cheap fixed price. But the surplus stuff, that could be sold at whatever price the market would bear. Deng's hope was that this clever little trick would smoothly steer rigid state-run enterprises into the chaotic world of the free market. But there was a catch. Some well-connected octopuses managed to get their hands on official government supply permits. They'd buy up price-controlled goods on the cheap, flip them on the free market for a massive markup, and pocket a mind-blowing 10 times profit. Naturally, corruption spread like wildfire. Realizing the graft was getting out of hand, Deng decided it was time to rip off the band-aid and scrap the dual-track system entirely. Let the free market decide all prices, even for basic everyday necessities. But there was a problem. Those artificially cheap government goods were the only thing keeping ordinary octopuses afloat. Now, with prices suddenly thrown to the mercy of the market, things went south real fast. It was way too radical, way too soon. Prices spun completely out of control. Panic hit, and octopuses flooded into department stores, frantically buying up literally anything they could lay their tentacles on. The currency plunged in value. To make matters worse, the corruption didn't just vanish. In the frantic rush before the dual-track system was fully shut down, plenty of corrupt officials still made absolute fortunes. Frustrated and fed up, student octopuses demanded political reform and gathered in Tiananmen Square to protest. Soon, the crowd snowballed into a massive sea of octopuses. In the end, Deng had to call in the tanks to clear the square. One lone octopus famously stepped out to block a column of tanks, a moment captured on camera forever. The students' movement was crushed, but it sent shockwaves straight to the core of Deng and his government. To keep their grip on legitimacy, Deng knew he had to deliver explosive economic growth to win the public back. If he couldn't, more protests were inevitable. The entire nation was stuck at a massive crossroads. Should they backtrack to the Mao era to keep their ideological purity? Or should they double down on reform, even if it meant more corruption and taking the blame for the downsides of capitalism? The debate raged on. In 1992, an officially retired Deng Xiaoping takes a trip down to Shenzhen. This city, built completely from scratch, has now become one of the main engines of the Chinese economy. During his visit, he delivers a blockbuster speech declaring that socialism can have a market economy too. Let's call it what it is. It's basically capitalism wrapped in a socialist shell. They officially branded the socialist market economy. But hey, whatever works, making money is finally no longer a crime. Not long after, Deng passes away too. Now, the guy steering the economic ship is Zhu Rongji, the premier. Let's take a look at what Zhu is cooking up. First, he overhauls the tax system. Every province is now forced to hand over their tax revenues to the central government, which then redistributes the funds. With its pockets suddenly full of cash, the central government goes on an infrastructure binge, building highways, power grids, and high-speed rail. Meanwhile, desperate to beef up their own budgets, local governments start auctioning off land in their jurisdictions to real estate developers. Before you know it, land costs make up a staggering 70% of the price of a home, and housing prices start booming. Next, Zhu sets his sights on making the country look like a proper modern nation. At the time, hundreds of thousands of inefficient, bleeding cash state-owned enterprises are a massive drain on the government's wallet. So, Zhu takes a sledgehammer to them. He axes the vast majority of these state firms, keeping only the vital strategic monopolies like defense, oil, aerospace, and telecoms. The rest, they're tossed straight into the cutthroat free market, and, spoiler alert, they all go belly up. Over 40 million octopuses lose their jobs overnight. It is an absolute catastrophe. Suddenly forced to fend for themselves, they have to scramble for any lifeline they can find. It's incredibly brutal, but as far as the government is concerned, it's a bitter pill they just have to swallow. In 2001, China finally joins the WTO. And remember, all those taxes the government poured into highways and power grids earlier? Well, it pays off big time now, ensuring those factories run like clockwork. Companies around the globe notice something incredible. The octopuses in China are dirt cheap, there are hundreds of millions of them, and they work themselves to the bone. Plus, the local laws and tax perks are insanely friendly to foreign businesses. So, global corporations stream in with massive piles of cash to set up shop. Even the vast majority of iPhones end up being manufactured in China, a trend that sticks around all the way to this very day. A few years later, armed with an army of dirt cheap labor, these Chinese octopuses completely crashed the global market prices for clothes, toys, and industrial goods. By 2010, China's GDP even overtakes Japan's, securing the number 2 spot globally. Suddenly, made in China is everywhere. Riding this massive wave, China mints its very first batch of homegrown capitalists. And guess what? Now they actually have the deep pockets needed to start pouring money into high-tech R&D. Fast forward to 2020. The era of cheap octopus labor is officially over, and sweatshops just aren't cutting it anymore. Instead, they're shifting gears to dominate automobiles, AI, and drones. They are trying to become just like their former bosses, using cutting-edge technology and massive capital to level up their standard of living. And honestly, they just might pull it off. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.